Hey everybody, so this is the group, the confound wolf packs, getting ready to move back to Alaska.
You won't believe what happened to the Alaskan bush people. The beloved family that captured America's hearts has been hiding shocking secrets. One member is facing felony charges for stealing over $170,000. Another was arrested for domestic violence just months after getting married. The patriarch is dead under mysterious circumstances. But that's not even the worst part.
For me, is the possibility that it could be the person I will fall in love with.
The journey began long before cameras ever rolled. In 1983, Billy and Amy Brown made a decision that would forever alter the trajectory of their lives and eventually capture the attention of television audiences across the globe. Billy, who had been working as a plumber in Texas, grew tired of what he saw as the monotonous routine of conventional employment. Together with his wife Amy, he chose to abandon the predictable patterns of modern society in search of something more meaningful and authentic. Their destination was the remote wilderness of Alaska, specifically Chichagof Island, where they established their first modest cabin. This wasn't simply a temporary adventure or a weekend retreat from city life. The Browns committed themselves entirely to a philosophy of self-sufficiency that would become the cornerstone of their existence. They deliberately distanced themselves from the conveniences that most people take for granted, learning instead to rely on traditional survival techniques that had sustained humans for thousands of years. The harsh Alaskan environment demanded rapid adaptation. The family had to master hunting and fishing techniques to secure protein sources throughout the long winter months. They learned to construct shelters using only materials found in their immediate surroundings. Every aspect of their daily existence required careful planning and execution, from gathering firewood to preserving food for the seasons when fresh resources became scarce. What started as a personal lifestyle choice eventually caught the attention of television producers who recognized the unique appeal of the Brown family story. The concept was unlike anything else on television at the time. Rather than focusing on wealth, luxury, or competition, this family's narrative centered on fundamental human survival and the bonds that held them together in the face of constant challenges. On May 6, 2014, Discovery Channel premiered Alaskan Bush People, introducing viewers to a way of life that seemed almost impossible in the modern era. The show was filmed primarily in Alaska, with locations including areas near Copper Center, Hoonah, and Chichagof Island. Later seasons would eventually move to Washington State, but the core concept remained consistent throughout the early years. The premise was straightforward yet compelling. Billy and Amy Brown, along with their 7 children, had chosen to live completely isolated from conventional society. They survived entirely on what they could hunt, fish, trap, and gather from the wilderness around them. According to the show's narrative, the family often went 6 to 9 months without encountering another human being outside their immediate group. The children, ranging in age from teenagers to young adults, had grown up knowing no other way of life. Each had developed specialized skills that contributed to the family's survival. They referred to themselves as a wolf pack, emphasizing the importance of unity and cooperation in their daily struggles. This terminology wasn't merely for dramatic effect, but reflected a genuine belief system that guided their interactions with each other and their environment. Daily life for the Browns involved constant physical labor and problem solving. Shelter construction required understanding of structural engineering principles, even if they didn't use those exact terms. They had to calculate load-bearing requirements for roofs that would withstand heavy snow loads. They needed to understand ventilation principles to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning from their heating systems. Every decision carried potential life or death consequences. Food procurement represented perhaps their greatest ongoing challenge. The male family members typically handled hunting and fishing responsibilities, tracking game animals like deer, moose, and smaller creatures through dense forest terrain. They employed traditional tracking techniques, reading animal signs and predicting movement patterns based on weather conditions and seasonal changes. Fishing provided crucial protein sources, particularly salmon during spawning seasons. The women in the family, led by Amy Brown, took responsibility for foraging wild edibles. This required extensive botanical knowledge to distinguish between safe and dangerous plants. They gathered berries, mushrooms, and other vegetation that could supplement their protein-heavy diet. They also processed and preserved food using traditional methods like smoking and drying, ensuring that nothing went to waste. When natural sources proved insufficient, Amy would make infrequent trips to purchase basic supplies, reportedly only twice per month. These journeys represented significant logistical challenges, often requiring travel by boat or small aircraft to reach the nearest community. If supplies ran out before the next scheduled trip, the family had no choice but to make do with whatever they could find or catch themselves. The show's appeal extended far beyond simple survival techniques. Viewers were drawn to the family dynamics and the way they supported each other through constant adversity. Unlike many reality television programs that artificially manufactured drama, the Browns faced genuine challenges that required real solutions. Weather emergencies, equipment failures, and wildlife encounters created authentic tension that couldn't be scripted or staged. International audiences proved particularly fascinated by the Brown family's lifestyle. The show reached viewers throughout North America and beyond, sparking conversations about modern society's relationship with technology and consumption. Many viewers found themselves questioning their own dependence on conveniences they had never really considered before watching the Browns make do with so much less. The family's approach to education also intrigued audiences. The Brown children had received unconventional schooling that emphasized practical skills over traditional academic subjects. They could build structures, navigate difficult terrain, and solve complex logistical problems. But their knowledge came from hands-on experience rather than textbooks. This alternative educational philosophy resonated with parents who questioned whether conventional schooling adequately prepared children for real-world challenges. Technology played a minimal role in their daily lives, at least according to the show's portrayal. They generated power through alternative means, like solar panels and wind turbines when necessary. But their primary focus remained on methods that didn't require external energy sources. They collected rainwater and melted snow for drinking water, filtering it through natural materials when possible. Their clothing and tools came primarily from materials they could produce themselves. Animal hides provided leather for garments and accessories. They crafted furniture and implements from wood found in their immediate environment. This self-sufficiency extended to medical care, where they relied heavily on traditional remedies and natural healing methods, though serious emergencies sometimes required outside intervention. The success of Alaskan bush people transformed the Browns from unknown wilderness dwellers into recognizable public figures. Fan communities developed around the show, with viewers eagerly discussing episodes and speculating about the family's activities between seasons. Social media platforms became venues for fans to share their own attempts at self-sufficient living, inspired by what they had witnessed on screen. Discovery Channel recognized they had struck gold with the series. The show consistently drew large audiences and generated significant advertising revenue. It spawned merchandise, books, and related programming that capitalized on growing interest in survival skills and off-grid living. The Browns themselves became brand ambassadors for a lifestyle that many viewers found appealing but lacked the courage or knowledge to attempt themselves. Critics and local Alaskans sometimes questioned the authenticity of the show's portrayal. Reports emerged suggesting that the family occasionally stayed in hotels during filming, or that certain scenes were staged for dramatic effect. Some locals claimed the Browns weren't as isolated as the show implied, and that they regularly traveled to nearby communities for supplies and social interaction. Despite these criticisms, the show's popularity continued to grow. The appeal lay not necessarily in absolute realism, but in the aspirational quality of the lifestyle it portrayed. Many viewers lived in urban environments where they felt disconnected from nature and dependent on systems beyond their control. The Browns represented an alternative that seemed both challenging and liberating. The family's individual personalities also contributed to the show's success. Each member brought distinct characteristics that viewers could relate to or find entertaining. Billy served as the patriarch and driving force behind their lifestyle choices. Amy provided nurturing stability and practical wisdom. The children each developed their own specialties and quirks that made them memorable to audiences. As the seasons progressed, viewers watched the children grow into young adults while maintaining their commitment to the family's unconventional way of life. This coming-of-age aspect added emotional depth to what might otherwise have been simply a survival documentary. Audiences became invested in the personal development of individual family members and their relationships with each other. The show also highlighted the physical and mental demands of their chosen lifestyle. Living in harsh conditions with limited resources required not just practical skills, but psychological resilience. The Browns demonstrated how families could support each other through difficult periods, providing emotional strength when individual members faced challenges or setbacks. Weather represented a constant antagonist that no amount of planning could fully control. Severe storms could destroy weeks of construction work in a matter of hours. Extended periods of bad weather might prevent hunting or gathering activities, forcing the family to rely on preserved food stores. Winter months brought additional challenges, as shortened daylight and extreme cold made all outdoor activities more dangerous and difficult. The relationship between the Browns and the wildlife around them provided another compelling element of the show. They lived in an environment populated by potentially dangerous animals, including bears, wolves, and moose. Rather than viewing these creatures as enemies, the family learned to coexist respectfully, understanding animal behavior patterns and maintaining appropriate distance when necessary. By the time questions began arising about the show's future, Alaskan Bush People had become one of Discovery Channel's most successful reality programs. It had introduced millions of viewers to concepts of self-sufficiency and alternative living that they might never have encountered otherwise. The Brown family had achieved something unique in television history, turning their personal lifestyle choice into entertainment that educated and inspired audiences while generating substantial revenue for themselves and the network. Yet even as the show reached its peak popularity, changes were already beginning that would eventually lead to its mysterious disappearance from television screens. Behind the scenes, the family faced challenges that would test their resilience in ways that no wilderness survival situation ever could. The foundation they had built over decades of off-grid living was about to face its greatest trials, and the cameras that had made them famous would capture both their highest achievements and their most devastating losses. The years following Alaskan Bush People's peak success would prove to be the most challenging period in the Brown family's history. Behind the scenes, a series of devastating personal losses and legal troubles began to unfold that would forever change the trajectory of their lives and cast a shadow over everything they had built together. The most profound blow came with the death of Billy Brown, the family's beloved patriarch and driving force behind their unconventional lifestyle. Born on December 3, 1952, in Fort Worth, Texas, Billy had experienced tragedy early in his life when he lost his parents and sister in a plane crash at just 16 years old. This devastating loss led to his legal emancipation and shaped his determination to create a strong family unit that could withstand any challenge. Billy's journey from that traumatic beginning to becoming the leader of a television phenomenon was marked by resilience and an unwavering commitment to his vision of self-sufficient living. After the plane crash, he traveled extensively across the United States, eventually working as a commercial fisherman, where he met his future wife, Amy. Together, they would raise 7 children in the Alaskan wilderness, building the lifestyle that would eventually captivate millions of viewers. However, by the late 2010s, Billy's health had begun to deteriorate significantly. What initially appeared to be respiratory problems eventually revealed themselves as serious heart complications. Medical professionals strongly advised him to relocate to a lower altitude for his safety, warning that the high elevation of their mountain property was making his breathing difficulties worse. Despite these urgent medical recommendations, Billy remained steadfast in his refusal to leave the land he loved. In a conversation that would prove prophetic, Billy reportedly told his family that he would rather die on the mountain than live somewhere that didn't feel like home. This statement reflected the depth of his connection to the wilderness lifestyle that had defined his adult life and the show that made his family famous. On February 7, 2021, Billy Brown passed away at the age of 68 after suffering a seizure. According to his son Bear, who confirmed the news on social media, Billy died surrounded by family members and crew who were filming at the time. Despite attempts at CPR, they were unable to revive him. His death came just days after he had given what would become a chilling final statement on camera, saying that God had blessed him greatly, but that he wouldn't be around forever. The seizure that claimed Billy's life was not an isolated incident. He had been experiencing seizures for several years, along with breathing difficulties and kidney problems that had resulted in multiple hospitalizations. The exact type of seizures Billy experienced was never publicly disclosed, but medical experts note that seizures can sometimes be fatal, particularly in cases involving sudden, unexpected death in epilepsy, where seizures can interrupt breathing or heart rhythm. Billy's death marked the end of an era for both the Brown family and the television series that had made them household names. Discovery Channel described him as a trailblazer and acknowledged his significant contribution to their programming. For the family, losing their patriarch meant losing the visionary who had guided them through decades of wilderness living and television fame. The loss of Billy Brown was not the only tragedy to strike the extended family during this period. Amy Brown's niece, Amber Nicole Branson, died in May 2020 at the age of 44 after suffering severe injuries in a fire in Texas. The incident occurred during what authorities described as a mental health crisis. Just 2 months later, Amy's brother Larry Renee Branson passed away from renal cancer at the age of 66. These losses compounded the grief that the family was already experiencing. While dealing with these profound personal losses, the Brown family also faced a series of legal troubles that would further complicate their lives and damage their public reputation. These legal issues involved multiple family members and spanned several years, creating ongoing stress and uncertainty for the entire clan. One of the most prominent legal controversies involved Joshua Bam Bam Brown, the second oldest son in the family. Bam Bam had initially left the show in 2017 to pursue a relationship with Allison Kagan, a supervising field producer who had worked on Alaskan bush people. Their relationship had reportedly caused tension within the family, particularly with Billy and Amy, who were concerned about their son's departure from both the show and the family's lifestyle. Bam Bam eventually returned to the show in 2019 after his mother's cancer diagnosis, but his personal life continued to face challenges. In May 2022, he was involved in a serious car accident that resulted in the death of a 24-year-old woman. According to Washington State Patrol reports, Bam Bam was driving northbound when a black Chevrolet Camaro traveling southbound collided head-on with his vehicle. The impact killed the passenger in the other car, while both drivers were hospitalized for their injuries. Authorities confirmed that Bam Bam was not at fault for the accident, but the incident added another layer of trauma to an already difficult period for the family. Perhaps the most shocking legal troubles involved Bear Brown, whose real name is Solomon Isaiah Freedom Brown. Bear had long been portrayed as one of the more adventurous and free-spirited members of the family, but his personal life became increasingly complicated and controversial. Bear's relationship with Raven Adams had been turbulent from the beginning. The couple first got engaged in August 2019, but their engagement lasted only 2 weeks before they announced their separation. The day after their breakup, they revealed that Raven was pregnant, leading them to attempt reconciliation. However, their relationship continued to be marked by dramatic ups and downs. In February 2020, while pregnant with their son River, Raven filed a restraining order against Bear, accusing him of erratic and abusive behavior. In the court documents, she alleged that Bear had engaged in yelling and slamming objects and had prevented her from leaving rooms during arguments. Perhaps most disturbing were her claims that Bear had admitted to using cocaine and had made threats involving firearms, allegedly boasting that gun laws didn't apply to him. Raven also alleged that when she confronted Bear about his suspected drug use, he threatened to kick her out of their living situation and began withholding food and money. These allegations painted a picture of a controlling and potentially dangerous relationship that stood in stark contrast to the family values portrayed on the television show. Despite these serious allegations, Raven dropped the restraining order just days before giving birth to their son River, who was born prematurely at 34 weeks in March 2020. The withdrawal of the restraining order meant that no criminal charges were filed at that time, but it marked the beginning of a bitter custody battle between the former couple. Bear filed for joint custody of River, while Raven requested that he be granted only restricted visitation rights. The custody dispute played out over several months, with Bear reportedly not holding his son for the first time until the child was 6 months old. Eventually, the couple reached a custody agreement and began dating again, leading to their marriage in January 2022. However, their marital bliss was short-lived. Just 2 months after their wedding, Bear was arrested on March 11, 2022, for fourth-degree domestic violence assault. The arrest occurred at 11:30 p.m., following an argument between Bear and Raven as they were cleaning their trailer in preparation for a move. According to the police report, the incident escalated when Raven told Bear to watch their son. She alleged that Bear then pushed her down and pinned her on a bed. Family members who were on the phone with Raven during the incident reported hearing her yell that Bear was hurting her. When police arrived, they observed a scratch on Raven's finger, but noted no other visible injuries. Bear spent the weekend in Okanogan County Jail before being released on Monday without bail. He denied the allegations, claiming that he had only tried to grab Raven's phone and had not gotten physical with her. Despite his denials, the arrest occurred just 1 week after the couple had celebrated their son River's second birthday, highlighting the volatility of their relationship. Bear later addressed the charges on his private Instagram account, calling them unfounded and expressing confidence that the facts would reveal the truth. Raven also spoke out about the incident, describing it as a private matter that shouldn't be shared publicly and asking people not to engage in online bullying on her behalf. The couple's history of domestic disputes and Bear's arrest raised serious questions about the pattern of behavior that seemed to characterize their relationship. The fact that these incidents continued even after marriage suggested deeper issues that went beyond typical relationship conflicts. Bear ultimately entered into a plea deal in April 2022, with the terms reportedly requiring him to stay out of trouble until December of that year in order to have all charges dismissed. A no-contact order that was initially placed against him was later removed at Raven's request, allowing him to return home. These legal troubles involving Bear Brown were particularly damaging to the family's reputation because they directly contradicted the wholesome, family-oriented image that Alaskan bush people had carefully cultivated over many years. The show had positioned the Browns as a close-knit family unit that supported each other through all challenges, making the allegations of domestic violence especially jarring for longtime viewers. The legal problems extended beyond individual family members to include broader issues related to their public claims about their lifestyle. Over the years, questions had been raised about the authenticity of the family's portrayal on the show, with some critics suggesting that their off-grid existence was not as genuine as presented. The family also faced scrutiny related to their financial dealings and residency claims. These investigations raised questions about whether the Browns had been entirely truthful about their living situation and their eligibility for certain benefits or programs related to Alaska residency. The combination of personal tragedies and legal troubles created a perfect storm of challenges for the Brown family during what should have been the peak years of their success. Billy Brown's death removed the steady leadership that had guided the family through previous difficulties, while the various legal issues involving his sons threatened to undermine the reputation they had built over nearly a decade of television appearances. For fans of the show, these revelations were particularly disappointing because they suggested that the reality behind the cameras was far more complicated and troubling than what had been presented on screen. The image of a harmonious family living in peaceful isolation from modern society's problems was replaced by a more complex picture involving substance abuse allegations, domestic violence charges, and ongoing legal disputes. The timing of these events also coincided with broader questions about the future of the show itself. With Billy Brown's death, and the various controversies surrounding other family members, it became increasingly unclear whether Alaskan Bush People could continue in its original format. The foundation upon which the show had been built seemed to be crumbling, leaving both the family and the production company to grapple with how to move forward in the face of such overwhelming challenges. The most shocking chapter in the Brown family saga unfolded with Rain Brown's recent arrest. Rain, whose full legal name is Merry Christmas Catherine Raindrop Brown, had long been considered the most stable family member. Unlike her siblings, she seemed to connect with modern life beyond the wilderness, sharing her artistic pursuits and emotional struggles on social media. In December 2023, Rain revealed her relationship with Josiah Lorton, a head chef she met while working as a waitress. They married in January 2025, with Rain describing him as her protector and home. For a brief moment, it appeared she had found stability away from family controversies. That happiness proved short-lived. In April 2025, Rain and Josiah were arrested on charges of first-degree burglary and malicious mischief. The allegations were staggering. They supposedly stole over $170,000 worth of items from Josiah's uncle Jason Erst, including $75,000 in cash, $85,000 in gold coins, expensive wines, and multiple firearms. Police reports suggested this wasn't random theft, but calculated betrayal. Josiah allegedly knew where valuables were hidden, and witnesses reportedly saw the couple with stolen weapons and wine bottles. Security footage allegedly showed them on the property during the theft timeframe. Rain's response revealed family dysfunction deeper than ever imagined. She claimed a former manager had stolen $43,000 from her and was now spreading lies. More disturbing, her brother Noah had contacted police requesting a welfare check on their mother Amy, expressing concern she was taking methamphetamine while living with Rain and Josiah. Noah also worried about Josiah's firearms possession and reported that Rain and Amy called him the next Messiah. These revelations shattered the Wolfpack image completely. The family that once symbolized unity now had siblings calling police on each other and expressing genuine fear for their mother's safety. Meanwhile, questions about the show's authenticity had reached a breaking point. Throughout its 14-season run, Alaskan Bush People faced persistent criticism about being fake. Local Alaskans consistently disputed the family's supposed isolation, reporting that the Browns stayed in hotels during filming, particularly at the Icy Strait Lodge in Hoonah. The geographical reality contradicted the show's narrative. Browntown wasn't remotely isolated, but was accessible from a highway dirt road, with a pizza shop just half a mile away. Critics noted the obvious contradiction. How could it be authentic wilderness survival, with a full camera crew documenting everything? More damaging were legal revelations. Billy and Joshua Brown had pleaded guilty in 2016 to defrauding Alaska's government, collecting nearly $21,000 in resident benefits while not actually living there between 2009 and 2012. Even dramatic scenes proved fabricated. The fight or flight episode showing the family responding to gunshots was exposed when Alaska state troopers revealed no gunfire reports were filed, and the sounds were actually fireworks. Former family associates made devastating authenticity claims. Bear's ex-partner Raven Adams alleged only 10% of the show reflected reality, claiming only Rain and Bird actually lived on the mountain, and they lived in trailers, not rustic cabins. The show concluded in 2022 amid Billy's death and mounting scandals. Reports indicate no future filming is planned, partly due to a $500,000 legal battle involving Billy's estate. Alaskan Bush People's legacy remains complicated. While it introduced millions to alternative living concepts and sparked conversations about modern society's relationship with technology, persistent authenticity questions raise serious concerns about reality television ethics. The Brown family's journey from unknown wilderness dwellers to household names to criminal investigation subjects represents one of reality television's most dramatic falls. What began as an aspirational story about family values became a cautionary tale about fame's corrupting influence. Whether audiences would accept any future series incarnation remains questionable. The accumulation of scandals, deaths, divorces, and arrests has fundamentally altered the family dynamic that originally made the show appealing. Without Billy's leadership, and with multiple members facing legal troubles, rebuilding viewer trust would prove nearly impossible. The Browns remain figures of curiosity and controversy, their story serving as a unique case study in how fame and personal choices can dramatically alter lives. Their impact on reality television is undeniable, but their journey ultimately became a complex narrative about deception, dysfunction, and the price of fame in modern America.